了解了该如何使用 STAR 设计你的面试答案，但是你知道盲目的使用 STAR 有个陷阱吗？那就让我们来听听看你可以避免的错误，让你的面试令人难忘。Hello， 欢迎来到 Executive Plus 主管双语沟通力的 Podcast。我们希望带给大家最实用的沟通工具，包括了成功人士对全球市场的分享、职场英语的技能、跨文化沟通技巧与其他能帮助您成为出色领导者的工具。Hi, I'm Sherry, founder of Executive Plus.As a language trainer and certified coach, I've trained hundreds of managers from Fortune 500 companies such as Dior, Google, Deloitte, and Yahoo.
And I'm Nick, Director of Communication Strategy at Presentality. I've helped startups raise millions of US dollars in funding and train the executives of publicly listed companies to present on the global stage.
Welcome to the Executive Plus podcast,
where you can take your communication and language skills from good to great.Hey everybody, welcome back to another Executive Plus podcast. Over the last 2 episodes, we've talked about STAR. Now this is a formula for answering questions and a methodology that Sherry and I quite like. But for anyone who has been following us for a while, you'll notice that we don't use a lot of formulas. Most often we'll go back and talk about the logic or the goal behind how we want to communicate something, and then get into potential patterns or tools that you can use. And the reason for it is if you follow these things perfectly, you may find that your answers are not that great, and that there's a few pitfalls and traps when following something word for word without thinking about what's the goal or logic behind it.
So 在我们在做这几个单元有关面试的单元的时候，我就做了一些 research。And 我找到这个 YouTube video， 那这个 KOL 呢，他可能是对于这个 career 或 interview 上面，他做了非常多的影片，那他也非常多的 follower。那他这一支影片呢，他特别就在讲 behavioral interview questions， 他所有回答问题的方式都是用我们的 STAR 原则。但是当我在听的时候，我就觉得心中有蛮多的疑问。So we're going to play this video for you guys now. Have a listen and think about it.
Can you describe a time when you've worked under pressure?
Yes, no problem. I've worked under pressure in various different roles for various different companies, and I actually think I perform better when I'm working under pressure. And one particular situation comes to mind where my manager came into the office at 9 o'clock one morning and he said that a member of our team had called in sick and they weren't going to be back in for 2 weeks. He was asking for a volunteer to step up to take on her tasks as well as your own. So I volunteered to be that person. So even though I didn't know how to carry out her tasks, I wasn't afraid to step up because I actually like working under pressure. So my manager gave me a brief of what I needed to do. I then went back to my desk and I formulated a list of all the tasks that I needed to do, including my own work and my work colleagues' work. And I put them in order of priority of what needed to be done. I then cleared my diary so that I didn't have any distractions at all for the next 2 weeks, and I focused intently on my own work and my work colleagues' work to make sure they were done on time and to the right standard. A couple of times during the next 2 weeks I had to stay behind late after work to get all of the work done, but I didn't mind doing that. And at the end of the 2-week period I managed to get everything done, all of the tasks, and it was great for the team, but it was also good for me because I learned some new skills that I hadn't done before by undertaking my work colleagues' tasks. And my manager praised me for getting everything done and for working under pressure and for getting them completed on time. So it was a good experience all round.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
If you were listening carefully to his answer, you'll find that he's following the STAR formula perfectly. His situation, his task, action, and result are all laid out very clearly and concisely. So, Sherry, if you were the interviewer, how would you feel about the answer that he gave?
如果我是刚刚从大学毕业的话，我还没有非常多的社会经验，可能少许，可能你做 part time。我觉得这个 answer 是还 OK， 因为它毕竟它 follow 的 STAR， 那整个 answer 它是蛮简洁，那它也是蛮 succinct to the point， so it's OK for a entry level。 但是如果你现在已经工作5年、10年 even more 或者你要争取一个主管级的职位的话，那如果我是 interviewer, I would actually go for no. I would not hire this guy based on the answer because there is a lack of authenticity. 有个真实性它不在了，然后它有很多的 statement 都非常的一点都不具体，而且有很多听起来就觉得很不切实际。 I don't know if that's how you feel.
To be fair to him, he's trying to answer a generic question to give a sample.
Yeah.
But at the same time, those moments for authenticity are definitely missing, and he's not leaving a lot of room in the way he answers for that to happen. So, for example, the statement like, I love working under pressure, right? There are a few people out there who really just thrive under pressure. But one thing that becomes scary is when you're explaining out how to answer behavioral questions and you're enforcing a certain type of personality. Like you need to answer saying, I thrive under pressure, I work great under pressure, I love finding pressure. That may be true for 1% of the population.
Yeah.
So if someone goes into the job and goes, okay, I know how to answer this question, which is I need to make them feel that I love working under pressure, that's not going to be true for the majority of people.
Exactly. And let's say he said, I love working under pressure. 那他老板说, oh, okay, 很好啊，我给你超多 pressure 的. But what if you crack? Then,
Yeah.
you don't live up to your own answer. So again, you gotta be authentic. So sometimes working under pressure could be fun. It could be challenging. 但是我们都知道，人生中有非常多的 pressure 并不是好玩. It's not fun. It's really not. Yeah, the stress, it's really unhealthy for your body, unhealthy for your mind. But is that really how you want to answer that? Like, I love it. I mean, that just seems really inauthentic for me. Yeah.
And there's a different point that he starts to make that actually is probably more legitimate, which is this was an opportunity for me to learn about something that I don't get to do often. If you just say, I'm willing to trade off pressure, and pressure is a natural part of the workplace, but I can gain these certain things. And that perspective, that's potentially a more authentic answer. I'll take an extreme. Like, look at Elon Musk. He's running SpaceX. He's running Tesla. He has Solar City. He also has another, like, underground burrowing project. This is a person who is constantly just following the things that he loves. Does he have a lot of pressure? Of course. Would he turn around and go, pressure makes me work better? It's unlikely. It's actually more along the lines of he's willing to trade off the pressure for the opportunity to go just do all these things that he's dreamed about.
So it's not really about, I love the pressure. It's, I love the opportunity to explore. So yeah, you can definitely phrase your answer in a slightly different way. And I think you could actually give people that you're being authentic, but you're also telling them about your personality.
And one thing that you'll kind of see throughout the whole video's behavioral questions is whatever question they ask him, he always responds with, I love doing that thing. Like, tell us a time that you do teamwork. I love teamwork. Tell us a time that you have, I love pressure. Time and time that you have conflict. I thrive in conflict. This is where that inauthenticity is coming from.
Exactly.
And when following STAR, it should not be as simple as, okay, describe the task as a challenge that you love to do. Is describe the challenge, but then put your own mindset towards that challenge. What is something that you love to do?
Absolutely. And there's one thing that he actually said, which makes me laugh every time. Remember, he said the fact that he cleared out his 2-week schedule just to do this new thing. Okay, 大家想一想 as a manager, 或者是, if you're working, if you have a family, 怎么可能? How is that possible? 然后我也想问他说, 那你 clear out 那个 2 weeks worth of work 怎么办? Are these people just going to be like, oh, okay, it's fine. You want your challenge, so you don't need those 2 weeks of work. You're going to put that off. Yeah, so that's something you have to be very careful. 你要非常小心你的答案会不会 backfire. 如果我是 interview 的人的话，我会说，那请问你的那个2个礼拜你原本安排的东西怎么办？ 那些人你要怎么回应，那些客户你要怎么回应right? That's something that could backfire.
Especially when you're looking at the situation that he set up. Just randomly one morning, my boss came in or my manager came in and said, this person's not here for 2 weeks. So this was not preconceived. This was not pre-planned. It was today. And then by this day, I cleared out my 2-week schedule.
Exactly. 如果他的答案好了，像之前那个我们在谈话的时候，那个就讲，如果你的这个答案是可以用在所有的 interview question 当中的话 that's not real, right? If the answer can just be the answer for every other question, that's not a good answer.
Right. And a good exercise, kind of what Sherry and I are doing right now, is if you're preparing your answers for these kind of questions ahead of time, after you've prepared your answer, switch roles. If you were the interviewer, how would you poke holes in the answer? What inconsistencies would you see in the answer? And what would make you go, really? Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do have to say, as an interviewer, I get a lot of vibe from him for being a good salesperson. 这个人他可能是非常好的业务 but I would probably not hire him for other kind of managerial positions, just as a sales.
So we're not trying to just dump on this guy or be rude, but a lot of it is we want to point out that when you're so focused on hitting this concrete formula and you're not thinking about the logic behind the answer, you're not thinking about the gaps and holes that you're creating by answering in this formula, there's a lot of problems that can arise. And so STAR is a great place to get started, to organize your thoughts, but you need to be able to switch positions and go, if someone answered, this is the type of challenge that they like, what are the potential problems with that? What are the potential outcomes that you're not seeing by just giving this really well-crafted answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Interview is when you interview the other side as well, right? You're interviewing each other, right? 你的面试的时候是你们互相在 interview 对方. So be you, be authentic, because you don't want to waste each other's time, right? You don't want to get into a job just because you pretend to be someone else and then you get into this job and ended up hating the job. And you had to leave, and it's a bad situation for everyone. So be authentic. If there is anything, even if you said, I don't like stress, and there are certain circumstances that I didn't do very well. However, I learned a lot of things how to adjust. And I think that could be a very good answer as well.
Yeah, we've actually talked about before is when it comes to authenticity, often the story of the person who struggled and overcame is much more important than the person who,
never struggled.
had talent at that.
Yeah.
And the easy example of that would be, let's say that someone was trying to sell you a program to learn math. And one person who sells you the program to math goes, since I was a kid, I loved math. I loved every single thing about math, and I just threw myself at math, and so I made this app for other people who love math. Versus someone who said, for most of my life, I was completely incapable of math. Throughout elementary school to high school, I failed almost every single class. And it wasn't until I sat down and I figured out a different way to study math, and I had a professor sit down and tell me the stories about math, that I really started to overcome this challenge. And so I made a program for other people like me who struggled their whole life to find a new way to look at math. Which one of those two people are you more likely to hire? The guy who is just naturally talented and puts no thought into it? Or are you going to hire the guy who figures out how to create something and then is willing to teach other people how to do it?
所以我希望大家从今天的 video 当中，当然 start 非常的重要，但是你还是要小心你的 answer 是不是会给人家感觉到你不太真实。You know, do a little bit of role play with your colleagues, with someone that you respect, and see if there's any holes. 有没有一些漏洞是你并不想要或者你可以避免的。So definitely have fun with, be authentic with your answers. And yeah, STAR is great, but don't fall into the trap.
We'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
如果你喜欢我们的 podcast, 欢迎来追踪我们的主管英文 Executive Plus 的 Facebook， 那也可以写信到我们的信箱yourcareerplus@gmail.com。